Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Truth as He Knows It by A. M. Arthur. Narrated by Guy Locke. Chapter 1. Officer Noel Carlson followed his partner down the breezeway toward apartment 303 and the source of their disturbance call. Even without the apartment number, Noel would have been able to peg this place. A deep bass thrummed through the door, right into his chest, reminding him of late nights in hot, sweaty dance clubs. The neighbors who'd reported the party said the party had been going on like that for over an hour, and it was already after 1 in the morning. Officer Wade Benedict paused to adjust his hat before he hit the bell, then banged a meaty fist on the door for good measure. Noel flanked him, the junior officer in their partnership, allowing Benedict to take point. The music continued, so Benedict bell-banged again. "Stratton Police Department." Noel glanced at the other 3 apartment doors on this floor, curious if anyone was watching through their peepholes, enjoying the floor show. Cedar Hills was one of the nicest, newest complexes around Stratton, and far beyond Noel's budget without at least 2 roommates. But his privacy was worth more than extra space and a pool, so he was happy enough renting a room above a church-run thrift store downtown. Benedict pounded the door. "Police! Open up!" Someone must have finally paid attention to his bellowing, because the music went down to a bearable volume. The front door opened, still on its chain. A sliver of a female face popped into view. "Show me your badge." Noel and Benedict took turns stepping into her line of sight so she could see the badges on their uniform shirts. The door shut, a chain slid, and they were allowed into a blast of air conditioning, not unwelcome after walking through the late May humidity. The open floor plan gave Noel a clear view of the party still in progress. Pink and white streamers and balloons. A banner that said, "Happy 30th, Sandy." The remains of a demolished birthday cake on the kitchen island. Liquor bottles strewn about on various surfaces. 5 women, 2 on the sofa, 2 in the kitchen, 1 by the door. The woman who'd let them in was listing a bit, cheeks flushed, obviously intoxicated. "What's the problem, officer?" Benedict grunted. "Are you the current tenant?" "Yep, that's me." "What's your name?" "Olivia Presnell. Who are you?" "I'm Officer Benedict. This is Officer Carlson." Olivia smiled at Noel, practically battering her eyes. "You wear that big gun in the bedroom, officer?" Noel almost laughed at the awful attempt at flirting. "Ma'am, we received a noise nuisance call this evening." "Who was being noisy?" Olivia asked. "You were," Benedict said. He had a gruff, angry bear way about him that made everything he said sound like he was snarling. And it worked on Olivia, who slinked into the kitchen. "I think it's time you broke up the party and called cabs for your friends," Noel said. A grumble of protest came out of the living room. One of the women on the sofa cast a forlorn look at a closed door at the back of the apartment, probably the bedroom. Something about it pinged Noel's curiosity. "Is this everyone who's in the apartment?" Noel asked. "Or are there others?" Sofa lady glanced sharply at Olivia, who was frowning. Unease rolled through Noel's gut. "Is there someone in the bedroom?" "Just the stripper," Olivia replied, clipped, annoyed, more sober than a moment ago, possibly from adrenaline. Odd. Hiring strippers wasn't illegal, as long as the transaction didn't cross the line into prostitution. He glanced at Benedict, who tilted his head at the bedroom door, clearly not volunteering to go get the guy. Noel crossed the room and paused in front of the door. To Olivia, he said, "Will you please open the door?" She heaved a put-upon sigh, then stalked over and twisted the knob. Noel nudged the door open with his foot, unsure exactly what to expect. The light was off, and a thick beam from the living room cut across the foot of a bed. Noel slid his hand along the wall until he could flip a light switch. A floor lamp in the corner flared to life. A man sat in the middle of the bed, propped up with pillows, tied to the headboard by his wrists. He was mostly naked, except for a red thong and a pair of laced-up work boots, and goddamn, Noel had to work hard not to appreciate the long, lean expanse of male body on display, or stare at the unusual monarch butterfly tattoo on his left hip. The stripper was gagged by a piece of cloth that did nothing to hide his pretty face, all sharp planes and high cheekbones. He kept blinking at Noel like he wasn't quite awake. Everything about the scene felt off, wrong. "We were just playing," Olivia said behind him. Noel ignored her. He approached the figure on the bed slowly. Dark brown eyes focused on him, really seemed to see him, then went wide. He jerked against the cloth binding his wrists. Muffled words didn't quite make it around the gag, but Noel would be damned if they didn't sound like, "Help me." He undid the gag, which appeared to be someone's scarf. The stripper licked his lips, fear settling into his dark eyes. "This isn't what it looks like," he said. "What does it look like?" Noel undid the knot on the guy's right hand. "I'm not a prostitute, I swear. She paid me to strip for her friends, but nothing else. I'm not into this." Noel let the guy undo his other wrist for himself. "Not into what? Getting tied up with silk scarves?" "No, I'm not." He got loose, then slid to the other side of the bed. "Then why were you?" "Misunderstanding." Noel glanced at the door where Olivia was watching, her expression hawkish. This entire scenario felt wrong to Noel, but he couldn't put his finger on it. The stripper seemed genuinely scared of something. Getting caught taking money for sex, probably. But Noel hadn't seen any money exchange hands, so he had no evidence of prostitution. And what a stripper did when he was off the clock was not Noel's business. So why did he want to know why the dark-haired man hunched over the bed looked so haunted? "What's your name?" Noel asked. "Shane." "Are you impaired, Shane?" "I didn't drink tonight." "What about drugs?" "No, sir." "Anything you'd like to report about the party tonight?" "No, I'd really like to go home now if I'm not under arrest." "You aren't under arrest." Noel pulled out a notepad and pen. "But I do need some information for my report." "Shane Joseph, 24. I live at 240 Naylor Street." Shane rattled off a phone number. "Would you like my social security number too?" The initial fear was sloughing off, leaving a lot of attitude in its place. Attitude that sharpened handsome features into something fierce, almost feral. And the fact that Shane was still only wearing that thong made the whole shift sexier than it had any right to be, and Noel had to quit thinking like that. He was on the clock, damn it. "No, that'll do," Noel replied. Shane fetched a patched backpack from the floor by the dresser, then disappeared into the master bathroom. Noel returned to the outer room, where Benedict was taking down personal information while the party attendees called for rides. A minute later, Shane stormed past and out the front door. It slammed shut, and Olivia jumped. "Next time you want to throw a party," Noel said, "watch your volume, and maybe skip the stripper." Olivia rolled her eyes. "Believe me, I will not be referring him to my girlfriends." He curbed the urge to ask why. Shane had a body he looked like he knew how to use. Quit it. Just quit. No sexy thoughts about strippers he'd ousted from a birthday party gone wild. Noel took a bit of perverse joy in writing the noise citation. He handed it over to Olivia. "I hope the party was worth the cost. Good night, ma'am." If she could afford this place, she could probably afford a $75 ticket. But the glare she leveled at him was worth it, because he'd gotten under her skin. Maybe she'd think twice before she blasted her stereo that loud again. Fuck it all and then some. Shane had to drive super slow and super careful because he'd lied to the cop when he said he didn't have any drugs in his system. Or was it really a lie when Shane had been drugged without his consent? Didn't matter. All he'd wanted was to get out of that fucking apartment, away from those obnoxious women, and out from under the curious, concerned gaze of the golden-haired cop who'd freed him. 2 years of stripping, and he'd never landed in such a fucked-up situation. And thank Christ someone finally called the cops on those crazy bitches. He was tempted to change his online ad to male-only parties, but right now, he couldn't afford the potential income loss. He'd learned from this fuck-up, like he'd learned from all his many, many mistakes. New rule. No more breaking your old rule about not drinking anything at a gig that isn't a brand new, sealed bottle of water. A glass of cold root beer, weakness though it might be, wasn't worth it. Shane finally made it to the far side of town, the poor side. Parsons Square wasn't a square so much as a long dirt road with a lot of run-down trailers dropped every 20 feet or so. Postage stamp yards with too many weeds. Small parking areas often full of cars on concrete blocks, or no vehicle at all. Sometimes Shane left his rusty hatchback unlocked on purpose, hoping someone would steal it. No one ever did. Probably because they knew his brother, and no one wanted to be on Jason McShane's shit list. His reputation spoke for itself. He pulled into his half of the gravel lot next to the trailer he shared with Jason. Jason's own ancient pickup wasn't there. Shane shut off his engine and stared at the empty spot, trying to remember which job Jason had tonight. Wake up, shithead. Warwick's. Jason had taken on an off-the-books security guard gig at a local junkyard not too long ago. Friday through Tuesday, 10 at night to 6 in the morning. Monday through Friday, he worked 8 to 5 at East Street Pets and Feed, making Friday, Monday, and Tuesday super long days. Only for another year or so. 2 max. They were almost out from under Shane's medical bills. Shane let himself inside, then went straight into the bathroom to shower. While he waited for the hot water to start, he stuffed his clothes into the bottom of the hamper. Even though he'd only worn the jeans and t-shirt for 30 minutes, they still felt dirty. He kind of wanted to burn the thong, but he couldn't waste money buying a new one, and women liked the red thong. Cold fingers raked down his spine. He jumped into the stall shower while the warming water was still searching for hot, but he didn't care. He grabbed the bar of soap and lathered it up as best he could. The cheap stuff from the dollar store didn't make great suds, but it did its job in terms of cleaning, so he rubbed it all over. Through his hair, across his neck, abs, his junk, legs, knees. Not an inch of skin went unwashed, and he still couldn't shake the feeling of being touched. Shane had 3 rules when it came to this job. No photos, no videos, no touching. At least 2 of the 3 had been violated tonight. He couldn't be sure about anyone videoing him, not after the roofie kicked in. He stayed in the shower until the hot water ran out, which was really stupid because the water heater cost them on the electric bill. The trailer was stuffy and hot because they only used the 2 window units when it got humid and unbearable. Even though it was late May, the weather had been unseasonably warm. Didn't stop him from throwing on a pair of light cotton sleep pants and a long-sleeved tee. He wanted to be covered up, damn it. Exhaustion settled in around the edges. Shane flopped down on his narrow single bed, which took up half the space in his tiny room, turned on the paper lantern that hung over his bed. He wanted to sleep, but he had homework first. Supposedly every night because he'd promised, but sometimes life got in the way. He hadn't done his homework in over a week, but he had to get this shit out before it ate him up. He tugged the tattered spiral notebook out from beneath his bed, where it resided with dozens of others, all filled, edge to edge, both sides of each page. This one was getting full. He'd have to buy another soon. Tonight sucked. Really sucked. Like for the first time since I started stripping, I want to stop, but I know I can't. We need the money, and it's my fault we need the money, so it's like my penance. Is that the word? Penance? I think that's the word. I'm not telling Jason about it because he'll get upset. He doesn't like me doing this anyway, even though it's only a few times a month, and it pays good. Better than the deli, if you break it down by the hour. Plus, I don't have to claim it on my taxes. But it really sucked. It's like my rules didn't matter, because some spoiled bitch had a birthday, and some people don't know stripper does not equal hooker. Fuck. Fuck them. They don't get to control my life. I'm in control. Shane shoved the notebook under his pillow. He didn't feel in control. He stared at the pair of pill bottles on the shelf next to his bed. He didn't have to work at the deli until mid-afternoon. Maybe something to take the edge off and help him sleep. Sleep and not dream about the hot cop who'd rescued him. A hot cop whose name he didn't know. He hadn't even had the sense to look at the name tag in his mad dash out of the apartment. Didn't fucking matter. He wasn't about to call the guy up and thank him for the save, then offer a blowjob as a reward, as much as he'd like to. No. Hot cops didn't grow on trees in small towns like Stratton, and Stratton had its quota filled in Officer Briggs. He'd seen the man both on duty and off duty with his partner and their little girl. Sometimes the family ate at the deli. Shane would kill for the simplicity of that kind of life. A pipe dream for him. He came with too much baggage for most guys to handle, and rehashing it hurt too much to bother. Guys like Shane got casual fucks, dead-end jobs, and rusty old trailers. They didn't get hot, put-together cops like his mystery savior. He popped the cap on his prescription rosarum, a lucky script from a doctor he'd neglected to inform of his full medical history, and that had come in handy these last few months. He washed a pill down with stale water from the glass he kept on the shelf, then spread out on top of his covers. He closed his eyes and thought about hot cop until the drug eased him into darkness. Chapter 2. Benefited assisted living felt more like a prison and less like a care facility each time Noel made his weekly trip up from Stratton. Every Sunday afternoon for the last 3 years he'd made the trek, without fail, to visit Tristan. He hoped to take a walk with Tristan today. The weather was lovely. Sunny and hot with a light breeze. Tristan had always loved being outdoors. Noel signed himself in at the desk and exchanged polite greetings with Kim, the nurse on duty. Everyone knew him. Tristan was one of only a dozen residents under the age of 65, and Noel was one of the few non-family members of a resident who made weekly visits. Tristan's room was on the west side of the complex, down a sunny corridor lined with mostly open doors. Noel had gotten to know some of the other residents over the years, which helped with reintroducing them to Tristan over and over again. Thanks to a homophobic basher and his bottle, Tristan had no short-term memory. He lived his life in a series of notebooks, recording everything, leaving himself sticky notes about times to do every imaginable task, from brushing his teeth to changing his socks, because he couldn't remember the last time he'd done it. The short-term loss also gave him trouble with remembering names to go with new faces. The staff wore name tags, which helped immensely, but the residents didn't. Even if he had an instinctive sense he'd seen the person before, the name never came back without help. The whole thing frustrated the hell out of Tristan, who'd once been a free-spirited, fun-loving young man with a smile for every stranger. The first man Noel thought he loved, and who was still his very best friend. Tristan was sitting in his armchair, looking out the window, earbuds in. He preferred listening to music over almost anything else. The songs were short enough that he could listen to the entire thing without getting lost or confused. His room was the same as it always was. Papers tacked to the walls, strewn on his desk, stacks of notebooks by the bed. Impersonal by choice. Tristan's family paid for the care facility, but they'd cut him off emotionally years ago when he was bashed and effectively came out to them. They never once came to see Tristan in the hospital. Even Noel's own close-minded parents had made the trip up from West Memphis when they heard their youngest son had been sliced to ribbons with a broken bottle. His hands skated over his left pec and the bumpy skin beneath the soft cotton tee. The worst of the scars, bunched there like the assholes had wanted to cut out his heart. Tristan's head swiveled, and his eyes widened with delight. "Hey, you came!" He said it with the same surprise every Sunday, as though the time and name written on his weekly calendar wasn't quite truthful. "Of course I came." He hugged Tristan tight, alarmed at how skinny he was in Noel's arms. Tristan only ate when he felt hungry, which was rarely ever, and they were paying these fucking people to get him to his regular meals. Noel made a mental note to have words with the staff about the weight loss. "Do you feel like taking a walk with me?" Noel asked. "It's gorgeous outside today." "Okay." Tristan tucked his iPod into his back pocket, then turned to study the weekly calendar on his wall. "I don't have to be doing anything else right now, do I?" "No, buddy. This is our time to hang out." "Of course. We do this every week." "Yes, we do." "Do Billy and Chris still come around?" The four of them had roomed together in Harrisburg the summer between their junior and senior years in college. That was the summer Tristan and Noel were bashed, and Tristan's life stopped moving forward. "They were here at Christmas. They brought you those sticky notes shaped like arrows." Tristan peered at his walls until he spotted them. "Oh, I love those stickies. The shapes are more interesting than the squares." "Yeah, I agree." After Tristan fetched a notebook, they strolled down the hall toward the back garden. A few of the elderly residents smiled and waved as they passed. Tristan always knew he should recognize those lined and spotted faces. For the first 2 years, he'd been an angry mess. Depressed over his failures, furious over being unable to do something as simple as watch an hour-long television show without forgetting the beginning by the time the end rolled around. Mostly, he'd adapted now. Or he showed anger less and less around Noel. "You're a policeman, right?" Tristan asked. "That's right. In Stratton, a little town about 20 minutes down the turnpike." "Have I ever visited?" The question made Noel stumble. Tristan had never asked that, nor had he ever shown interest in seeing where Noel lived. Tristan had the freedom to sign himself out whenever he liked, but he never left Benfield unsupervised by choice. He was afraid of getting lost and forgetting how to get back. "No, you never visited Stratton," Noel replied, careful, curious. "Would you like to?" "Yes, I would." "Okay. I work night shifts Friday through Tuesday, so my only totally free days are Wednesday starting in the morning until Friday evening." "What is your shift again?" 11 to 7, overnight." "That's right." Tristan glanced at the notebook he clutched, as though needing to consult it. Once they'd gone out the rear doors to the back patio, Tristan opened it to the last paper-clipped page. "Here it is. My therapist, Dr. Patrone, thinks I should start going more places. Testing myself." "How do you feel about it?" "Right now, I think it's a good idea." Pain flashed in his eyes. "I don't want to live here forever. I want to take steps to be able to live in the world again, Noel. I want that so badly." "I know." He slung an arm across Tristan's shoulders, and Tristan leaned into him. They walked off the concrete patio and out into a wide, green lawn. To their far left, a group was playing badminton. A red-headed nurse waved at them. Noel waved back. "So, can I come visit you this week? For a day at least? Please?" Noel was helpless to say no when this was the first time in 3 years that Tristan wanted to go somewhere, to be part of the world. "Of course you can. How about I pick you up early Thursday, and we'll spend the day together?" "All day?" "All day. Or until you get totally sick of me and demand I bring you back." Tristan grinned. "I'll never get sick of you." "Good, because you're totally stuck with me." "Whether I like it or not?" "Exactly." "So, tell me about your week." Tristan bent down to pluck an errant dandelion from the otherwise immaculate lawn. "I can't promise to remember it in half an hour, but I'd like to hear it." Noel smiled at the familiar line. Did Tristan know he said that every single week? "It's been mostly quiet, although last night my partner and I responded to a disturbance call. Loud party was keeping up the neighbors." "Frat party?" No colleges in Stratton. It was a birthday party gone wild. A bunch of women and their stripper. Shane tied to that bed, staring at him in a wide-eyed fear, sent a shiver down his spine. Noel hated not knowing for sure what that was all about. "You remember that party at the Beta House sophomore year?" Tristan asked. His entire face lit up as it often did when he remembered the past. Firm memories that a bigot's bottle hadn't torn away. "We got so wasted on schnapps that night." I remember you thinking my bed was a trash can and barfing on it. You barfed on your own bed, and you know it. For a moment...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?